Oh shit. Here we go again.
Hello everybody, welcome back to another Breaking Bad video. Today is going to be a little bit different compared to the previous Breaking Bad video that I put out, but I am still working on video essays which I plan on publishing in the future. But for today, I was doing a little bit of research and I figured out that there wasn't a Breaking Bad episode tier list. There was Breaking Bad character tier lists, and there's plenty of those, but I haven't seen an episode tier list where people line out all of the episodes and rank them from S tier to, F tier. Now, I want to preface this video by saying I don't inherently think that there is really a bad Breaking Bad episode. As you can see, the lowest rank I put on here is a C, so don't get offended if I put something as a C. It doesn't mean that I think the episode is bad. I think that there's just episodes that pack a little more action. So here I have every single episode of Breaking Bad all listed out, all 62 of them. First line is season 1, second line is season 2, third line season 3, fourth line season 4, and this divider over here is all of season 5. So to start off, we have the pilot. Now, I'm actually going to give the pilot an S tier because it introduces us to most of the main characters. We all know that it introduces us to Walt, to Jesse, the predicament that Walt's in when he figures out that he has cancer. It gives us pretty much the entire backbone to the plot. It's pretty much the first episode that really kicked off the series, which, has done pretty well for them. Cats in the Bag. So this is the one where they have to deal with the consequences of killing one of the drug dealers. It was Crazy 8 and that other one I forgot. Emilio has died, but Crazy 8 is still alive. I'm going to give this one an A tier. It was driving the plot forward. It kind of really shows that the show is going to be a dark one. I don't think that, if you didn't get the hint from the first episode that this is going to be a dark show, this one kind of solidifies that. And the Bags in the River. So obviously this one is going to get another S tier. The reason I'm putting this as an S tier is because that scene with Crazy 8 in the basement and Walt realizing that he took a piece of the plate, so it pretty much sealed his fate. I don't know, it kind of resonated with me. It kind of made me think that it kind of foreshadowed the entire series. Like, this is going to be a, very dark show, and it probably won't get better from here. I knew that the show was going to be a good one after I saw that scene. Gray Matter. All right, so this is the 5th episode of the first season. I'm going to give this a solid B tier. The reason I'm putting it as a B is because Gray Matter is one of those episodes, or it is the episode that Walt attends the party and he denies the money offered by Gretchen to pay for his medical expenses, and Walt justifies this by saying that he doesn't want to take charity money. So it was his own pride. You kind of realize that he's a very prideful man in this episode, which, for the rest of the series, this just keeps resonating within him. So I think Gray Matter is a solid B tier. Crazy Handful of Nothing. I'm probably going to give this an SS tier just because that scene with him and Tuco and his hideout, and he throws the fulminated mercury or whatever the fuck it was that he threw on the ground. That scene was fucking awesome. I don't care what anybody says. It's probably one of the most iconic scenes of the show. Everybody just knows it, and it was kind of a really badass moment for Walter White right there. And then him with his triumph in the car. That's also pretty iconic. So yeah, why not? A no rough stuff type deal. This is more of a driving plot episode. This is the last episode of the first season. I am going to give this a C tier. It's not because, again, the episode's not bad. It's more of just a driving plot where Skylar has a baby shower, things are picking up, and Walt picks up his new identity as Heisenberg, which is pretty great, might I add. But yeah, not a lot of driving stuff in this episode, so I'm going to put this as a C tier. 737. So this entire second season pretty much foreshadows the plane going down over Albuquerque. I'm going to give this one another C tier. This is where Jesse and Walt kind of realize that they made a huge mistake with trying to work with Tuco because he's a psychotic rage psychopath. But other than that, not a whole lot in this episode. Grilled. This is definitely an S tier. This episode is hands down one of the most suspenseful, when they're kidnapped by Tuco and they're kept there in that little hut and they're eating the burritos. They try to poison him, and then the uncle realizes that something's wrong. Yeah, he dings the bell. One of the most suspenseful episodes I think in the entire series, and for that I think it deserves a solid S tier for that. Bit by a Dead Bee. So this is the one where Walter's walking around in a supermarket naked. Yeah, I'm going to give this one an A tier just because the way that Walt gets out of a plethora of consequences by just saying that he was in like a fugue state. It's kind of crazy to think about, but he got away with it, and I still think it was a pretty good episode, so I'm gonna give that one an A tier. Down. So in this episode, I think Jesse gets kicked out of his aunt's house, and Walt is having trouble connecting with his family, and especially with Skylar. This is due to his like random disappearances and yeah, all that. So I'm gonna give this one probably a B tier. It has some good scenes with the it builds up tension very well. I feel like that's, you know, pretty self-explanatory, but not other than that, not a whole lot goes down. Breakage. So in this one, Hank is suffering panic attacks after the encounter with Tuco. That scene in the elevator where he's like having a flashback, that is one of the most accurate depictions of a panic attack I think I've ever seen, and for that I think I'm going to give this one an S tier. Really great cinematography. I really like how they, you know, portrayed that shot. This is also the episode where Jesse starts getting up Skinny Pete, Badger, and Combo to start dealing for them. So overall, a pretty good driving episode. Peekaboo. So this is the episode where Skylar still thinks that Gretchen paid for Walt's treatment because, I mean, I have not mentioned this previously. This is whenever Walt is lying and saying that, yeah, you know, they're paying for my treatment, but in reality, we know, dramatic irony, that is clearly not the case. I'm going to give this one an A tier. More driving plot, more, you know, good scenes. Nothing too special, but yeah, it definitely helps with the story. Negro y Azul. So this is the episode Hank is joining a new branch of the DEA, and I think this is where he goes to Mexico and he witnesses that horrific event. I'm gonna give this one another A tier. I think that this one portrays shock quite well. I think that the driving forces are pretty good. This is also the episode that Walt and Jesse are trying to push into new territory after that whole ATM stunt in the previous episode. Next up, Better Call Saul. So obviously we all know that Better Call Saul is its own spin-off show of, you know, Breaking Bad. And it introduces one of the most complex characters and one of the most intriguing characters, or any protagonist. I think some people claim that Better Call Saul is better than Breaking Bad. I haven't finished Better Call Saul, but I do know that Jimmy McGill, or Saul Goodman, as you may know him in the show, is a very good protagonist. This introduces one of the newer protagonists, and, you know, we all love Saul Goodman dearly. I'm going to give this one an S tier just because it is a critical point in the show where they introduce a character that is kind of crucial for the rest of the show. 4 Days Out. So this is one of the best episodes. I'm automatically going to give this an S tier, I think, without explanation. If you know what the context of the episode is, this is the episode where Jesse and Walt go out into the desert with the RV, and then out of, you know, bad choices, all the water is used up to put a generator out that caught on fire, and the battery's dead, and they're kind of doomed in the desert until Jesse's encouragement to Walt gets them out of that bad situation, and then Walt uses his big brain to help them out with that. I wouldn't say it's a suspenseful episode, but I do think that it is. Actually, yeah, it's quite suspenseful. Let's be honest with ourselves here. So I'm going to give this one an S tier. So in this episode, a lot happens. I think this is the episode where Skylar starts to open up to Ted more. Walt and Hank get into a predicament at that party where he's giving liquor to Walt Jr. I'm going to give this one probably a B tier. Not a whole lot. It's more of just character development. But not a whole lot as far as action or plot points go. Mandela. So this one is the one where Saul hooks up Walt and Jesse with Gus Fring. So this is, again, a pivotal moment for the series where they introduce another antagonist. And the way that they did it with the chicken shop and how Walt kind of knew that Gus Fring was the guy, but also it was like unknown to the audience, and he was the complete opposite of Tuco. I think that this one is deserving of an S tier just because of how they played this out. This episode was excellent. Phoenix. So I think this is the episode where Skylar has the baby, and Walt is, meanwhile, while all of this is happening, he's frantically trying to get the meth out of Jesse's house, and he goes to that trade and he gets a few $100,000. This was excellent. It was terrible timing for, you know, Walter, but good episode. I think tensions are building up with Jane and Jesse, with Jane's father, with Jane and Jesse being in the relationship because she was a recovering addict. I'm going to give this one an A tier. This one was pretty neat. A lot of driving plot points, not a whole lot of action. Actually, you know what? No, I'll keep it an A tier. I was gonna give it an S tier, but I think it's just to the point where it's a very great episode, but it's not, too great to the point where it's like, holy shit, this is awesome. ABQ. This is the last episode of the second season. Obviously, this is where 737 goes down over ABQ. This entire plane crash was caused by Jane's overdose, and it was just terrible on all ends. But this is a great season finale. I'm going to give this another S tier. They really do a good job at driving the story forward. I remember I saw the first episode of season 1, and where you see that little teddy bear flying around or floating around in Walter's pool, and I thought everything had already fallen to shit. But no, it's actually body parts and luggage flying from the sky and falling into his yard. So no mas. So this is the third season. Yeah, first episode of the third season. This is where Jesse starts rehab after Jane's unfortunate death. This episode also introduces us to the two Salamanca twins. Very, very suspenseful. I remember when they were crawling around in the desert and nothing made sense. I don't know. It was pretty good. I'm going to give this one a B tier. Caballo sin nombre. So this is where Skylar starts to seek out a divorce from Walt, and the Salamanca twins have an idea of who they're going after. They're going after the great Heisenberg who betrayed Tuco. Yeah, it definitely builds tension in this episode. I'm going to give this one an A tier. IFT, so I am going to give this one a C tier. Not a whole lot happens. I know that Walt just kind of re-enters the house without the consent of Skylar. It's more of just a filler episode in my opinion. Not that that's a bad thing. I'm not saying that any of these are bad. Green light, so I think this is around the time that Skylar cheats on Walt with Ted. I'm going to give this one a B tier. You can kind of see Walt's pride and ego whenever he goes into that office and, tries to throw the plant. Mas. So this was an episode, kind of more filler, but it's still pretty good nonetheless. I'm going to give this one a B tier. This is whenever Walt's trying to go back into the drug trade, or he's considering it to obtain more money for his family. Other than that, not a whole lot happens this episode. Sunset. So this is where Walt utilizes Gus's meth lab. This is also the episode, I believe, where they're hiding in the RV, and it's just great timing, and Hank comes there, and then this is my own private domicile, and I will not be harassed. Bitch! Great episode overall, very suspenseful. 1 minute. So this entire episode leads to the end. I'm probably only going to talk about the end for this one. This ending scene to this episode was one of the best of the series. I'm going to give this an SS tier. I sincerely believe that the ending to this episode was absolutely crazy. The way that it showed Hank's stubbornness with him getting the warning call about the twins coming to attack him, and his stubbornness about not leaving because he's that kind of guy. That whole shootout scene was so filled with action. Hank suffers terrible injuries, but he ends up pulling through. He killed the two assassins, and one of them. The other one died later. But yeah, very, very, very good ending to that episode, and just for the ending alone, I think I'm going to give that an SS tier. I See You, I'm going to give this a C tier. This is kind of a follow-up to that part where the twins fail in their attempt to kill Hank. I think Walt also kind of realizes that these twins came after him originally, and this was cartel related, and with Walt's relation of the cartel, he kind of realizes that he has a part of this. So I'm just going to give this a C tier. Not really a whole lot happens. Kafkaesque. I don't know how you say that. I'm not even going to bother. This one is kind of more filler, but I will give this one a B tier. This is the episode where they realize that these medical bills for Hank and getting him back up to walking again will be a challenge. And this is also, I think this is also the episode where they offer to pay for his medical bills. Fly. Okay, so this is a highly controversial episode. Some people say it's the worst episode in the series. Some people say it's the best episode in the series. Personally, for me, I'm just going to give it an A tier. It's not going to be lower than that because there's deeper meaning in that episode. I think it was very intentional that they made Fly the way it was, as kind of like a dual purpose, because people are expecting the show to really pick up and stuff, but it's kind of ironic in the sense that it's not picking up, and rather it's set in this entire lab for the entire episode while Walt confesses his guilt for letting Jane die subliminally, and he's not letting him know, hey, I watched Jane die, because that's later on. But just a very overall good episode. You can really see in depth with how the characters are feeling, and how Jesse is handling all of the terrible things that have happened to him thus far. ABQU. Yeah, this episode is mostly about Jesse getting into rehab to sell meth, which he gets later on. That is kind of one of the saddest scenes in the series, but that's not in this episode. This one is where he meets Andrea. I'm going to give this one probably a B tier. It is kind of more filler, but it is relatively good. Good plot filler. I think that this kind of does drive the story forward in a positive way. Half measures. So obviously I'm going to give this one an S tier. I think the entire scene with Walt hitting the two guys, saving Jesse from, killing himself by trying to go after these dealers. I think that was very great, and it really shows the darker side of him when he picks up the gun and shoots him without any remorse. He just tells Jesse, run. This is really the start of the downfall for the two protagonists with Gus when they had that partnership going. So yeah, for that I'm going to give it a S tier. Full measure, SS tier all the way. Gail's death was one of the most tragic scenes of the series. I think nobody's really innocent in this show, in my opinion, because they're all in this business. They're all prone to facing these kinds of consequences, and that's kind of the part of the job. But I think with Gale, with how he was depicted as like this innocent nerd guy who, wrong place, wrong job, wrong occupation, and the very dark scene with Jesse arriving at his apartment after Walt manipulated him into doing so, it really shows that you could tell by the facial expressions on Jesse's face. He was a punk, but he wasn't a killer. And as soon as he pulled that trigger, you could definitely see for, a few episodes after that, he was going through some shock and derealization. I think it is a excellent depiction of trauma. Box cutter. So obviously, no doubt about it, this is going to be an S tier. That scene with Victor drinking all that cranberry juice and spilling it all over the floor, that was one of the most disturbing scenes in the entire series. I think that it's kind of unmatched by, how graphically depicted that was. That was very, very disturbing to watch, but it was kind of a blast to watch as well, because, it really shows the darker side of Gus. 38 snub. I'm going to give this one a C tier. It's kind of more filler. It's more of just the characters such as Marie and Hank going through emotional problems. Because Hank is still dealing with the terrible attack that he endured from the twins, and Marie's kind of she's feeling down about Hank's attitude towards it. So kind of more filler. Nothing more really happens from there. Open house. This is the scene with the parties at Jesse's house when he's kind of he doesn't have a care in the world. He's clearly going through some shock. I'm going to give this one an A tier just because you can kind of see how his state of mind is throughout this entire episode. I think the entire state of his house, with how how filled it was with a bunch of bullshit, with the pizza, with the people, it kind of just it's like a metaphor for his state of mind, and I think that this episode did a pretty good job at stating that. Bullet points. I'm gonna give this one a solid B tier. Reason I'm giving this a B tier is because not a whole lot happened in this episode, but there is some driving plot. Gus kind of realizes that Jesse's malleable. He can kind of manipulate Jesse into doing what he wants him to do. So this is kind of where he hires Mike to do some of the not dirty work, but just more of testing him to see how far Jesse will go. Other than that, not really a whole lot happens. Shotgun. This is where actually Jesse travels with Mike, and this is wherever they're in that alley scene, and Mike walks away and Jesse drives away to test what he would do in a pressured situation. And this is also where Walt is starting to realize that something's wrong with Jesse being manipulated by Gus, and he kind of wants Jesse back on his side. I'm going to give this one an A tier because it's more plot driving than the previous episode. Cornered. So this one is where Jesse is fully taken in by Gus, pretty much. I think this is I might be wrong. I think this is the episode where they share a meal in the diner, and Gus kind of congratulates him, and he says, "I like to think that I see things in people," kind of just making Jesse feel like he is that he means something to Gus. I kind of have mixed feelings about whether or not Gus really cared about Jesse. There definitely was some manipulation in the show, but I don't know if Gus's views on that changed because he used a lot of people for his own gain. But anyway, this is pretty average episode. I'll probably give this one a B tier. Problem Dog. So I think this is where things are picking up with the car wash, and there's also Jesse, who is I think he's assigned to Mexico or he's asked by Gus to go to Mexico to direct the new meth lab, considering his expertise after working with Walt. I'm probably going to give this one an A tier, more driving plot, but again, not really a whole lot. Bug. So this is the episode that I think Gus gets shot at by the sniper off in the hills. This was an excellent scene. It really showed how fearless Gus was. I'm going to give this one an S tier. That scene with Jesse kind of in shock after seeing the guy like getting his head blown out right in front of him, and he kind of just stood there. Mike saved his life. That entire sequence was pretty neat. So yeah. Salud. I'm probably going to give this an I don't know. I'm going to give this an S tier, yeah. I was going to give it an SS tier. I don't think it's quite on par with the rest of those episodes up there. Salud is the episode where Gus travels to Mexico, and that entire episode kind of revolves around them visiting his former associate Don Eladio's mansion, and he kind of kills everybody there with the poisoned liquor. This is really where Jesse's relationship with Gus is picking up as well, and this is growing increasingly concerning for Walt. Crawl space. So if you have been one of those, I think, 160 people who have subbed to me due to that previous video that I made about this episode in particular, I think it's safe to say you already know what I'm going to rank this one as. This is most definitely an SS tier. There is no way in hell I'm going to make this anything below SS tier. The entire build-up from everything that this season provides to what the episode does with the building tension, and then in the final 5 minutes with Walt's primal scream and his mental breakdown laughing in that crawl space, there is no way in hell that I would ever give this anything below SS tier. This episode was absolutely brilliant, and I don't think I'm ever going to change my mind about that. End time. So this is directly after the episode Crawl Space. This is where Walt kind of formulates his plan, or kind of scrambles something together, a plan to try to kill Gus. I'm going to give this an S tier just because it's pushing the boundaries for what the fuck is about to happen in the next episode. And of course, that's going to lead us to Face Off. Face Off, definitely an SS tier. That entire scene with the ringing bell, Gus screaming, he realized that he had been outsmarted by Walt. That entire episode, I don't really think I need to say a whole lot. I think you guys would know that, this is obviously deserving of a SS tier. That is a great way to end off a season. So now we're in season 5, Live Free or Die. This is kind of where the season opens up with Walt opening his trunk and you see the M60 machine gun. It's kind of confusing because we don't know what the fuck's going on. This is where they destroy a lot of the evidence of the meth lab. I'm going to give this one an S tier just because the DEA missed Walt and Jesse by this much. So I still think that episode was very, very good. Madrigal. So I'm going to give this one a C tier. I think this one's more filler. It's introducing new characters. Nobody likes Lydia, let's be honest with ourselves. Although I do think that her actor does quite a good job of depicting someone who, is a coward. Hazard pay. So Mike, Jesse, and Walt all come together and they universally agree, okay, well, if we're going to get this business running, then we have to do it this way, blah, blah, blah. Walt is... He takes offense to Mike's hazard pay for the guys that got incarcerated after Walt's blown up face and his entire business operation. I'm probably going to give this one a B tier. This one kind of introduces more problems between Walt and Mike, and it kind of foreshadows the unfortunate events that occur a few episodes later. 51, more filler. I'm going to give this one a C tier. It's more, just filler. A little bit of driving plot, not a whole lot happens this episode. The DEA realizes that Madrigal had something to do with, I guess, some of the operations that Gus was having. So, just not a whole lot that happens. Dead Freight. This one is a definite S tier. I think anybody who has seen the show definitely thinks that the train heist is quite exhilarating. And it also ends off with the very unfortunate tragedy with Drew, Sharp, and Todd. That was very disheartening to see. Buyout. This is the episode that Jesse goes to Walt's house and Jesse kind of says, hey, you have all the money that you'd ever want in the world. When is, enough going to be enough? And then Walt kind of just explains to him he doesn't really give a shit about the money. He's kind of just doing it for the empire. Probably an A tier. It's not on par with the, like the train heist or anything, but it is showing the true colors of some of the characters if you haven't already known them quite well by now. Say My Name. automatically an SS tier. I don't think there is a more iconic scene from the series than Say My Name. It is the most well-known quote from Walter White whenever he's going through, developing his power complex and his alter ego of Heisenberg. So, yeah, I think this one kind of just speaks for itself. Gliding overall, definite S tier. So this is the episode that Walt takes out all of the witnesses in that brilliant 2-minute prison scene. That one was very disturbing. It shows how far Walt is going to go to protect his empire, and again shows true colors. I don't think this really shows true colors. I think it just makes those colorfuls more saturated within him. Blood money. This is whenever Walt realizes something is wrong. Whenever he finds a bug on his car, and he realizes that Hank was the one who bugged his car. He goes to his house. Hank says, and he finds out that Walt is Heisenberg. And that brilliant monologue that they both, well, not monologue, but in that brilliant conversation that they exchange, they kind of, are giving each other warnings. But ultimately, Hank is afraid of Walt. He says, I don't even know who you are. I don't know who I'm talking to. And then Walt says, tread lightly. This one is very iconic. I'm going to give this one an S tier. Buried. This isn't really filler. I think this is more of consequences of everything that's happening at the same time of each other. I'm going to give this one an A tier. This is where Walt buries his money. Things are picking up. Hank's trying to scramble to see how he can prove that Walt is this mastermind of meth dealing from the entire time. And yeah, it's kind of just a good episode. It really drives the tension back up, after all of the terrible things that happened in the previous episodes. Confessions. So this episode isn't supposed to be taken seriously with its name. It's kind of ironic because, there's not really a true confession. This is where Walt kind of blackmails Hank. He makes that fake DVD, slides it to them on the table, and kind of frames Hank as the mastermind of being part of the operation, being the whole mastermind behind everything. I'm going to give this one an A tier because kind of Walt's turning against his own family. Again, more saturating the colors of who he really is. And yeah. Rabid dog. So this is post episode after Jesse douses Walt's entire house in the gasoline. This is whenever Walt's trying to manipulate him into meeting him to talk about this. And at this point, Jesse is super paranoid. He's talking with the DEA about everything that has happened, and Jesse's not buying it. He says, pretty much go fuck yourself to Walt. I'm gonna give this one an A tier. Yeah. To Hajili. This, I don't know if I said that right, but this is the episode right before Ozymandias, which is arguably the best hour of television in history. But this one is kind of the build up to that. This is where Hank tells Huel that he's going to end up dead if he doesn't help him figure out where Walt's money is. So they kind of get a general idea of where the money is. I think this is also the episode where they bug his car. So this is this has the scene where Walt is driving into the desert frantically while Jesse is pretending that he's going to be burning all of Walt's money. And that ultimately leads to the iconic desert scenes that take place in Ozymandias. I'm going to give this one a solid S tier. Ozymandias, yeah, this one's going to be a C tier. Yeah, you fucking thought. No, this one's going to be an S tier. In my opinion, I think Ozymandias is the second best episode in Breaking Bad. This episode is absolutely brilliant. It really shows that Walt's actions have consequences, and this is like his first time realizing like what has happened due to his terrible actions, his power complex, and everything that occurred since then. But yeah, this entire episode, I think it just speaks for itself. And obviously, if you're watching this, you probably know that Ozymandias is one of the most emotional episodes of the show, as Walt has to abandon his baby, and he's on the run. That entire scene with him going to the van and leaving Albuquerque forever is kind of just shocking. Granite State, also SS tier. This is where you really see Jesse's deteriorated mental state and physical state, not just mental state. He's completely broken. You could see the terrible things that have happened to him since Walt has left Albuquerque and he was taken into custody by Jack's gang. And him watching Andrea's death was one of the darkest scenes in the show. That scene is so disturbing, but it just goes to show how brilliant these writers and cinematographers are. So for that, definitely an SS tier. This is also where everybody's living in kind of the shocked state. This is the aftermath of everything that Walt has created. There was also a video essay I watched about Granite State. I'll link that down in the description below. It's an excellent video essay. You should check it out. Felina, this is the final episode of Breaking Bad. Definite SS tier. I think this goes without saying. The ending to this show was perfect in so many ways, but it also opened up a kind of an epilogue to be made for the series, but just the entire sequence with the machine gun gunning down everybody in Uncle Jack's gang, how Walt originally went there to go kill Jesse, but saw his condition and ended up ultimately saving Jesse, him getting revenge on Gretchen and Elliot and ensuring that his family would get some of the money that he earned. Just everything kind of worked out super well, and Walt was happy. And with his pride and his ego, that's kind of all that mattered to him. And last but not least, I hid this away from the grid because I kind of debated on whether or not I wanted to put this in, but I'm definitely going to put this in. This is another SS tier. Ozymandias, Granite State, Felina, and El Camino all kind of in line with each other. All of these are deserving an SS tier. This is a brilliant way to end the series, with all of the consequences for Walt's actions kind of going into play with the rest of the characters that had to deal with that, ending off the series with the final shootout, and then having El Camino kind of clean up everything and giving closure to one of the most beloved characters in television history. I think that El Camino did a excellent job at doing that. And when I first watched the movie, I thought that this was an excellent ending to a TV series that, we all hold very close to our hearts. So that is going to do it. That is my tier list. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave me down in the comments below what you thought about this video. And yeah, if you guys want to see another tier list regarding something in Breaking Bad, let me know. And I might do a Breaking Bad character tier list, but that's been done many times. Look out for more video essays from me in the future, some pertaining to Breaking Bad, some being other projects, but that is going to do it for this video. So please like and subscribe, and have an excellent day.